Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to our Nectar devotion class. So we'll continue our discussion starting with our prayers. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamiham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नित्यनामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. We have completed 14 chapters of this nectar of devotion, and the 14th chapter is the last chapter where Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti is described. And from this chapter onwards, Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti will be described. So 15th, 16th will be describing Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, and then a Bhav Bhakti will be described in 2 chapters, and then Prema Bhakti in the 19th chapter. So in this, all these chapters which we'll be discussing now, they are actually out of our syllabus, because they are very high esoteric topics which we may not be able to comprehend, but at least we should theoretically know what is there awaiting for us to experience. So from 2nd to 14th chapters described Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, and this chapter will be describing Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. So before describing Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, Rup Goswami gives the definition of Ragatmika Bhakti. So Atmika, Atma means the essence. So just like we discussed in Bhagavad Gita, Kamatmana Swargapara. So people who are interested in sense gratification, their Atma is Kama. Their essence of life is sense gratification. So similarly for the devotees who are connected to Krishna, their essence of their existence is Raga. Raga means to develop a relationship with Krishna. So that is Ragatmika Bhakti. So Ragatmika Bhakti definition is given by Rupa Goswami here. Raganuga, first he describes Ragatmika Bhakti to describe Raganuga Bhakti. So this verse describes Raganuga Bhakti, and there he says Raganuga Bhakti is defined as the Bhakti which follows after the Ragatmika Bhakti found distinctively in the inhabitants of Braja. So basically, what is Ragatmika Bhakti? Ragatmika Bhakti is the Bhakti which is performed by the inhabitants of Braja. So Braj Bhumi, so original Golok Vrindavan, the Bhakti which is performed by the Brajvasis, that is called Ragatmika Bhakti. And if somebody wants to develop that type of Bhakti, so then what does he do? He follows in the footsteps of these Ragatmika devotees. So this should be very clear. What is Ragatmika and what is Raganuga? Ragatmika Bhakti means the Bhakti which is performed by the Brajvasis in Vrindavan, in Golok Vrindavan, when Krishna was there. So they are pure devotees. They have their natural, spontaneous attraction for Krishna. That is called Ragatmika. And Raganuga means Anuga means follower. If somebody wants to follow these Ragatmika devotees, then These devotees are called Ragatmika devotees or Ragatmika, and bhakti performed by them is called Ragatmika bhakti. So there, this verse says, Virajantim abhivyaktim brajavasi janadishu. Virajantim means it manifests. Abhivyakti means distinctively. So this bhakti is distinctively manifested in Brajavasis. And then Ragatmikam Anusritaya Sa Raganugocyate. So the devotees who follow in these footsteps of these Brajavasis, they are called Raganuga devotees. So that is what is described here. So one time, if we want, if we try to imitate this stages of bhakti uh, prematurely, then it will create just destruction and violence in our process of bhakti. One time there was a devotee in Vrindavan, and he started going to different places, and he went to one of the places where he met one Babaji, and this Babaji, he told that actually, your actual swarupa in Vrindavan, Golok Vrindavan, is of a peacock, and you have to meditate on that form of peacock. So this person, this devotee, although he was a ISKCON devotee following four regulated principles, chanting, but he got attracted by this higher levels of ecstasies, which are seemingly, manifested in front of him because of being told by some Babaji. So then he said that you have to every day meditate. So then next morning, as all the devotees are chanting, so they hear some unusual type of peacock sound which was coming. So then they found out that this devotee, he was imitating, the sound of a peacock. So then he was asked, why are you doing this? So he said, actually, this one Brajvasi sadhu, he told me. So then it was informed to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada said, this is all nonsense. We can't just start imagining all this. So one time one devotee asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, is it that, there are some devotees who are saying that Srila Prabhupada has not given us the highest philosophy, the highest form of rasas which are available in Vrindavan, Goloka, they are not being given by Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada did not say anything. Then Prabhupada said, then this devotee said, is it that Prabhupada, just by following the instructions which are given by you, slowly we will also develop those levels of maturity, we will be able to relate to those ecstasies? Prabhupada said, yes, I have given you everything. You have to just follow and be patient, because at our level of devotional service, at our level of conditioning, we cannot relate to all these higher levels of ecstasy. Our focus should be serving Krishna. Just like one time when Gurudas Prabhu, he was in Vrindavan and Prabhupada was coming to Vrindavan. So he was thinking that, wow, pure devotee of the Lord, he's coming to Vrindavan. He must be seeing Krishna, Radha Krishna dancing in the groves of Vrindavan. So with this thought, he went to receive Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada came down from flight, and all the while from Delhi to Mathura, he was silently chanting on his beats. So, and this devotee was thinking, oh, what is Prabhupada thinking? So, because he did not say anything. So, and then they entered Vrindavan. So then now this Gurudas Prabhu was thinking, oh, now he must be seeing Radha Krishna, he'll say something. Prabhupada was silent. After some time, Prabhupada said, cement. So this Gurudas Prabhu was confused. Cement? What cement has to do with all this? Then Prabhupada said, now we are starting this construction of Radha Krishna temple. Have you acquired cement bags? Because those times cement bag was very, very costly. And then Gurudas Prabhu sharing that, I could realize that actually bhakti means getting connected to the practical service of Krishna and the representatives of Krishna. That is our devotional service. So that's how we have to be really very clear about what is our status. And when we hear such all these esoteric descriptions of raga, dunga bhakti, then bhav bhakti and prem bhakti, we should know these are all very far off things, at least for most of us. But we should try to go towards these destinations. So therefore then Rup Goswami says that in order to define Raganuga Bhakti, first Ragatmika Bhakti should be discussed. So Srila Prabhupada and Rup Goswami discusses this Ragatmika Bhakti first. So there Prabhupada writes this Ragatmika means spontaneous devotional service. They can be seen by the residents of Vrindavan, Krishna's direct associates. Just like the cowherd boyfriends of Krishna. They were playing with Krishna, they were joking with Krishna, they were doing everything with Krishna, enjoying their life with Krishna. But the scripture Srimad Bhagavatam says, who were these cowherd boys? Itham satam brahma sukhanubhutya dasyam gatanam paradaivatena maya shritanam naradarakena sakam vijaharu kritapunya punja. So Bhagavatam says that these cowherd boys, they have done krita punya punja. They have performed austerities for many lifetimes. That's why now they are getting a chance to play with Krishna. So therefore they have passed all the tests of regulative principles in their previous lives. That's why when Brahmaji, he came and he saw that Krishna was playing with the cowherd boyfriends, and one boy was eating something and he was giving jhuta to Krishna. So he got confused. This supreme Brahman, Parabrahma, who eats only when pure Brahmanas they offer in yajna, how is that supreme personality of God is eating the remnants of ordinary cowherd boys? So that is a position of Ragatmika devotees. They are pure devotees. They are direct associates of Krishna, and their spontaneous attitude of devotion is called Ragatmika Bhakti. And then Rupa Goswami gives the definition of Ragatmika Bhakti. Ishte swarasiki ragah paramavishtata bhavet tanmai ya bhaved bhakti satra ragatmikodita. So raga means there are three things: Ishte, Swarasiki, and Param Avishtata. These are the three characteristics of Ragatmika Bhakti. Ishte means towards the person whom one has loving sentiments. So towards that person, he should have Swarasiki. Swarasiki means it should be natural and spontaneous. And then Param Avishtata. Param Avishtata means extreme engrossment. That means very deep, intense thirst. That means thirst which is intrinsic to prema. So these are the three characteristics of Ragatmika devotees. Loving sentiments for Krishna, which are spontaneous, and these sentiments are very intense. So that raga is called raga, ragatmikodita. So bhakti that is impelled exclusively by such a thirst is called ragatmika bhakti. And therefore Prabhupada writes that Srila Rupa Goswami has defined ragatmika bhakti as spontaneous attraction for something while completely absorbed in thoughts in it, with an intense desire of love. So that is called ragatmika. So ragatmika means one whose very essence is atma. Atma means essence. The essence of this person is intense attachment for Krishna. Raga. Raga means color. So if somebody is wearing a red colored glass, everywhere we can see red. Similarly, when one has extreme intense attachment, he sees his object of obsession everywhere and all the time, because he is wearing a glass of that person. That object is object of intense attachment. So the passions we see in this world, they are just the perverted reflection of this raga one has for Krishna. Real raga means obsession to please Krishna only. And the passion to serve Krishna consumes the devotee's consciousness to such an extent that they cannot think of anything else than Krishna. Vikretu kama kilagopakanya murari padarpita chitta vritti dadhyadikam mohavashadavochat govinda damodar madhaveti. So Bilvamangal Thakur describes that in Vrindavan, when the gopis, they would go to sell yogurt. Generally, when somebody has to sell something, he has to shout, just buy this, buy curd, buy milk. But gopis, they were so much absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. Vikretu, as they were going to sell yogurt and butter and milk, they were not calling, oh, take this butter. They were calling Govinda Damodar Madhaveti. You know, so whatever they're doing, they were absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. You know, there other place Bilvamangal Thakur describes that there was one time one gopi who had a little parrot in her cup, in the cups of her hands, and she was teaching that parrot to speak, and she was saying, "Oh, small parrot, please speak. Govinda Damodar Madhaveti. Kachit karambo japute nishannam krida shukam kim shukaraktatundam adhyapayama sasaroruhakshi Govinda Damodar Madhaveti." Adhyapayam. She was teaching a small parrot. So that is how the Brajvasis, they were completely absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. So therefore, Yashoda Mai, she was not feeling Krishna to be Supreme Lord anytime. She was feeling that, oh, he is my small child. If I'll not take care of him, who will take care of him? And therefore, she will, she would correct him, she would chastise him, So that's how these pure devotees of Vrindavan, who are Ragatmika devotees, they were seeing Krishna everywhere. So now, Rup Goswami says that there are two types of Ragatmika Bhakti. One is Kama Rupa, other is Sambandha Rupa. So that which is impelled by conjugal feelings, that Bhakti is called Kama Rupa, primarily represented by the love of gopis. And Sambandha Rupa means that which is impelled by other relationships, just like Nanda, Yashodamai, they had relationship with Krishna. Then even Vrishnis and Yadavas, they had relationship with Krishna. So somebody may say, but actually this Kama Rupa is also one type of relationship. So why it is explained separately? So Jiva Goswami gives an example. For example, if it is said, everyone is coming and the king is also coming. So the word everyone includes the king also. But just to show the importance of the king is mentioned separately. Similarly, this Skam Rupa is also like a type of Sambandha. But because Kama Rupa is the most prominent and prime and chief relationship with which Krishna has with the gopis, that is mentioned separately to give the importance to this Kama Rupa Bhakti, the love of gopis to Krishna. So then, Rupa Goswami mentions one verse from Bhagavatam in which Srila Narad Muni describes that there are 6 types of moods in which one can be completely absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. So there, in this verse, he says, Gopya kamad bhayat kamso dveshya shaidya dayo nripa sambandhat vrishna snehat yuyam bhaktya vayam vibho. So in this, it is described that just as by sadhana bhakti one can attain one's spiritual goals, many persons have attained suitable forms according to their type of absorption after absorbing their minds in the Lord out of lust, hatred, fear, and affection. And then he says, Narad Muni is telling to Yudhishthir Maharaj. So he says there are various type of devotees who have achieved highest destination, And he gives the 6 examples. Gopyaha, all the gopis, they attained Krishna by their conjugal desires, kama. So what is this lust that will be described separately? Gopyaha kamat bhayat kamso. Kamsa, he was so very absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna. Asina samvisham tishtam bhunjana paryatan mahim chintayano rishikesham apashyat tanmayam jagat. So it is described when he understood that Krishna is there in the womb of Devaki. He was completely obsessed by thoughts of Krishna. He was seeing Krishna everywhere. As he was sitting asinaha, bhunjanaha, as he was eating food, as he was roaming around, as he was looking in the mirror, he was seeing Krishna, even in the dreams. He was seeing Krishna everywhere. So bhayat kamso, because he was so fearful of Krishna. Gopyaha kamad bhayat kamso dveshya Shishupal. He is the embodiment of envy. He was so envious of Krishna that from the day of his birth, whatever would come from his mouth was blasphemy of Krishna. He also attained Krishna. He also attained liberation. Bhayat kamso dveshya chaidyadayo. Chaidyadaya means Shishupal, Chaidya. Then Sambandhad Vrishnayaha. Vrishnis, just like Uddhava and all the Yadu dynasty, all the Vrishnis, they attained Krishna by their familial relationship with Krishna. And then Snehad Yuyam, all the Pandavas, Narad Muni is telling to Yudhishthira Maharaj, oh Yudhishthira Maharaj, you have also attained Krishna by your love, Sneha, by your affection. And Narad Muni, out of his humility, says, and I also have attained the mercy of Krishna by this bhakti, by this Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Because in his past life, we know in this first canto, Narad Muni describes how he became pure devotee by the practice of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. So therefore, these are the 6 ways by which one can be completely absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna. So therefore, it is described that by constant enmity or by devotional service or by fear or by affection or by lusty desires, by any of them or all of them, if a conditioned soul somehow or other concentrate his mind on Krishna, the result is the same. So this is a very interesting thing. The result is the same because the Lord is absolute. So whatever way somebody connects to him, he will get the same result. And therefore it is said, Tasmat kenapi upayana manah Krishne niveshayet. So the essence of sadhana is absorption of the mind in Krishna. So that is the main point. Spontaneous devotion is the best method of absorbing the mind in Krishna, and this is the essence of sadhana bhakti also. Smartavya satatam Vishnu vismartavyo na jatuchit sarve vidhi nishedasyo retayoreva kinkarah. By all the rules and regulations of the scripture, we have to remember Krishna, and we should never forget Krishna. That is the essence of all the rules and regulations. I have to just take this some important call. I'll just continue. So extremely sorry. Actually, one of our devotees has to go urgently to his native place, one of our brahmacharis. So that's why I'll just take few minutes. I'll come back. So I have to do some required things. Hare Krishna, extremely sorry for that. Okay, we'll continue. So there are these six things which are mentioned. They are the essence is absorption of the mind on Krishna. So therefore, when all these things are described by Rupa Goswami, then a thought may come in the mind that are these inimical emotions also recommended to be absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna? You know? So Kamsa was inimical, and Shishupal was inimical, and we know the story of King Vena also. King Vena, he was also very very inimical towards God. And what is the difference? Vena went to hell, and Kamsa and uh, this Shishupal, he got liberated. So what is the difference? So the difference is the total absorption in Krishna. So it is described that King Vena, he also hated God, but unlike Kamsa and Shishupal, his mind was not always absorbed in the thoughts of the Lord. So therefore, his hatred of God sent him to hell. But in contrast to this, Kamsa and Shishupal, they were completely, continuously absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna. So therefore, Narad Muni says that total absorption of the mind in Supreme Lord, even if it is out of envy or fear, that is good, that is required, that is recommended. So therefore, after describing this, Rupa Goswami says that actually these four types of mood, they are not accepted as ragatmika bhakti. So what is ragatmika bhakti means? Spontaneous attraction for Krishna. So the four moods, that is fear, envy, affection, and devotion. These four types of mood, they are not included in ragatmika bhakti. And why? Because it is described fear and hatred, they are anyways not favorable, they are rejected. And then affection of the Pandavas. The Pandavas were very very affectionate, but they may or may not be practicing ragatmika bhakti, depending on whether that mood is mixed with awe and reverence or not. Generally, the mood of the Pandavas, they were mixed with, it was mixed with awe and reverence. So therefore, whenever Krishna would come, they would deal with Krishna in a loving way, friendly way, but they knew that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here in this verse, as you can see in this slide, Rupa Goswami says the affection of the Pandavas, if it means friendliness, sakhya, then it belongs to sadhana bhakti, because the sakhya is predominated by veneration, awe and reverence. They knew that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, as we hear in Bhagavad Gita also. Arjuna, when he saw this Virata Rupa, he says, Sakheti matva prasabham yaduktam, He Krishna, He Yadava, He Sakheti, Ajanata mahimanam tavedam, Maya pramadat pranayena vapi. So he says, oh my Lord, please forgive me for all my offenses. Out of my friendly behavior, I treated you in an improper way. I dealt with you, misbehaved with you in a wrong way, misbehaved with you, dealt with you in a wrong way. It was out of love or it was out of madness. So please forgive me. So at times, all these Pandavas, they would exhibit their symptoms of awe and reverence also. And then he says that if sneha, this is, if the sneha which is mentioned in that verse, sneha, snehad yuyam. So sneha, if it means prem, it still could not be admitted here, because this is the topic of sadhana bhakti which is going on. This is not a topic of prema bhakti. So therefore, it is described that fear and hatred shown by Kamsa and Shishupal, they are anyways rejected. Then the sneha, affection of Pandavas, that is not also ragatmika bhakti. And then the bhakti which is performed by Narad Muni, that is also not ragatmika bhakti, because he performed Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Then there are only two things which are remaining, and these two things, these two, that Gopyah Kamat and Sambandhad Vrishnayah, the lusty desires of the gopis and the familial kinship, the familial relations of Vrishnis, they are included in this Ragatmika Bhakti. So these two types of emotions form two types of Ragatmika Bhakti, that is Kama Rupa and Sambandha Rupa. So as we discussed on the beginning of this chapter, Kama Rupa means the feelings of conjugal love. Sambandha Rupa means the feelings of familial relationship. So then Rupa Goswami says that how can the enemies and dear friends of Krishna, they attain same destination? This is not proper. Enemies of Krishna, they also got liberated. Friends of Krishna, they also got liberated. How is this possible? This is not the right way. So Rupa Goswami clarifies. When it is said that the enemies and the dear friends of the Lord, they attained the same end, it means the same end only in the sense that Brahman and the personal form of Krishna are one entity. So therefore, there are three aspects of the Lord: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. So when it is said that all these attained same destination, they actually attained either Brahman or Bhagwan. And because all these are the features of the absolute truth, Vadanti tattat vidas tattvam yajnanam abhyam brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagwan iti shabdyate. So therefore, in that sense, they attained the same destination. And Rupa Goswami gives the example of the rays of the sun and the sun. They are one in one sense. And therefore, Prabhupada also writes, here is a spiritual distinction. Although Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagwan, they are same, devotees like Kamsa and Shishupal could attain only Brahman effulgence. They could not have realization of Paramatma or Bhagwan. This is the distinction. And therefore, the analogy given is the sun globe and the sunshine. And Prabhupada there writes that the impersonalists, he is very, very strong in his in this paragraph. He says that impersonalist philosophers are in one sense like the enemies of the Lord, because the enemies of the Lord, they are allowed to go into the impersonal Brahman, and the impersonal worshippers, they also attain the same impersonal Brahman, the Brahma Jyoti of the Lord. So in that sense, the impersonalists are in one sense enemies of the Lord, because they cannot tolerate the unparalleled opulence of the Lord, and because they have an envious attitude, they cannot accept this. And therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said that impersonalists, they are offenders of the Lord. Therefore, Kaviraj Goswami says, Mayavad bhashya shunile hoye sarvanash. We should never ever hear Mayavad philosophy of becoming one with the Lord. But the Lord is so kind that he gives even his enemies the entry into the spiritual world, that is the impersonal Brahman, Brahma Jyoti, that is the merciful nature of the Lord. And then Rupa Goswami says that, the enemies of the Lord, they attain Sarupya Mukti also. But still, in that Sarupya form, they remain in the impersonal Brahman only. So there are enemies of the Lord, just like Paundraka, And Jiva Goswami says his name was Shrigal Vasudeva. This Paundraka, he started saying that I am the real Vasudeva. And he attached two more hands, artificial hands, and he also had a flute, he also had an artificial chakra, and he started imitating. He was always observed, uh, he was always observing various activities of Krishna and absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna. Whatever Krishna would do, he would imitate that. And in that consciousness, when he was fighting with Krishna, because he always wanted to be like Krishna, he also attained a liberation called Sarupya Mukti. So therefore, this verse says they attain semblance of a form similar to Lord. Sarupya abhasa, remain absorbed in the happiness of Brahman. And therefore it says that it is described here in Brahmanda Puran that Siddha Loka means the spiritual world here. It is beyond this material creation, and the demons killed by the Lord and some sages, they dwell there, merged in the happiness of Brahman. So now after this, Rupa Goswami describes the position of the gopis. What is the position of the gopis? So he says that these gopis, they are most devoted to the Supreme Lord, and who are the very form of prema, and who worship him with intense spontaneous attraction. They attain the nectar of his lotus feet. So that is the position of the gopis. So this verse describes the supreme most position of the devoted gopis of the Lord. After description of this, Srila Prabhupada and Srila Rupa Goswami gives the difference between the mundane lust and the spiritual lust, because many times people get confused. If the gopis, they were also lusty for Krishna, and this lust is also seen in today's world, what is the difference? What is the difference between the lust of this world and the lust which was shown by the gopis? So this verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita very clearly describes the difference between the lust of this world and the lust of the spiritual world. Atmendriya pritivancha tare boli kam, Krishnendriya priticha dhare prema nam. The desire to gratify one's own senses is called lust, and the desire to please the senses of the Lord, Krishna, is called prema. So this spiritual lust is called love, because in that love, in that lust, there is no desire for personal sense gratification. And therefore, Prabhupada writes that the lusty attitude of the gopis does not refer to any sort of sex indulgence. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami explains that this lusty desire, very, very important paragraph Prabhupada is writing, this paragraph and the next paragraph which we'll be discussing, very, very clearly describes the distinction between the lust of this world and the lust which was shown by the gopis. So every line is very, very important to understand. Srila Rupa Goswami explains that this lusty desire refers to the devotee's particular attitude of association with Krishna. So that is also called lust. There is a particular way a devotee wants to serve Krishna. That is also called lust. Lust means desire to serve Krishna. Every devotee in his perfectional stage has a spontaneous attraction for the Lord. This attraction is sometimes called the lusty desire of a devotee. The lust is the devotee's excessive desire to serve the Lord in a particular capacity. That is called lust. So devotee is so very overwhelmed to serve the Lord that this is manifesting in every action of his, because he is completely absorbed in thinking how I can serve Krishna. So that is called lust. And then this is the spiritual lust. Then Prabhupada writes, what is mundane lust? He says, in mundane lust, in this material world, there is no such thing as a lover's wanting to please the senses of his beloved. So this is the harsh reality of this material world. All the Bollywood industries, all the media, all the advertising industry, they are promoting this lust. They say it is love, but actually it is not love. Because in love, there is no personal sense gratificatory desire. But in lust, we see in this world, in every affair between a man and a woman, it is completely overwhelmed with, covered with lust, desire to enjoy, wanting to please. They do not want to please the senses of the beloved. They want to please their own senses. And he says, Prabhupada writes, actually in the material world, everyone wants mainly to gratify his own personal senses. But again, he's describing the love of the gopis. He says that the gopis, however, wanted nothing at all but to gratify the senses of the Lord. And there is no instance of this in the material world. So one time, Narad Muni, he went to Dwaraka and he found that Krishna had a headache. And he asked Krishna, oh my lord, can I do something for you? Is there any treatment for this headache of yours? Because it is unusual. Krishna says, yes, there is only one remedy for this headache. If I can get dust from the feet of my devotees, that is the treatment for this headache. So that Narad said, what is the big thing in that? There are millions of devotees you have, you know. So I'll go around and ask some dust from the devotees. So Narad Muni went around in the whole Dwarka. First of all, he went to the queens and he said that Krishna is having headache. So please, and the dust of the devotees is a treatment. So all the queens, they said, how can you think that we will give dust to Krishna's for to apply on his head? We'll go to hell for eternity. So then Krishna Narad Muni became surprised. He went to every person in Dwarka. Nobody was ready to give dust to Krishna. Krishna went back, Narad Muni went back to Krishna. And Krishna and told the whole scene. Krishna said, don't worry, you go to Vrindavan and ask, try there. Narad Muni went to Vrindavan. And as he reached, all the Brajvasis, they came, offered their obeisances and asked about Krishna because they were completely absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. So they asked, oh, is Krishna all right? How is his health? How is he doing how is he maintaining his kingdom, his family? Is he happy? Narad Muni said, yes, everything is all right, but just there is some problem which has come. You know, Krishna has developed some headache. Everybody, all the Brajvasis became very, very disturbed hearing that. So they said, oh, can we do something? So Narad Muni said, yes, you can do. Krishna has said that, you know, only treatment for this headache is the dust from the feet of his devotees. All the gopis, they ran and they brought gunny bags. He said, Arey, this is very, very small thing, you know, and they started scraping their feet, the soles, and putting the dust in that bag. All the gopis. Narad Muni said, you know, what are you doing? You'll go to hell for eternity for this. To put the dust of the feet on the Supreme Lord's head, it is a gravest of the all sins. So Gopi said, we are not concerned with going to hell for eternity. We are just concerned with relieving the headache of Krishna. Even if Krishna's headache gets relieved for a moment, we are happy with that. And some gopis, they brought some water also. They were putting their legs in water and then again putting on sand and then again, you know, removing the dust. Then Narad Muni realized these are the supreme most devotees. So the gopis, they had no sense of personal sense gratification. Their whole life was meant to serve Krishna. That is the difference between mundane lust and the spiritual lust. And then Rupa Goswami starts the description of this Kama Rupa Bhakti. And what is this Kama Rupa Bhakti? So he says this type of bhakti with full absorption in the beloved is called Kama Rupa Bhakti, which produces an intrinsic love and thirst for a conjugal relationship with the Lord in the Atma. It is called bhakti because in that condition there is only eagerness for giving pleasure to Krishna. So there is only one condition which is required to practice this ragatmika bhakti, intense eagerness to give pleasure to Krishna. In the mood of conjugal love, that is Kamarupa Bhakti. If it is in the mood of familial relationship, then it is called Sambandha Rupa Bhakti. And then it is described here. This very famous Kamarupa Bhakti appears in brilliance in the women of Braja. Again, the Braj Gopis are glorified. And then we'll see a little more about the difference between the mundane lust and the transcendental lust. So our acharyas, they give the difference that it is like iron and gold. That is the difference between lust and love, material lust and the spiritual lust. Because in the material lust, only selfish desire is the motivation. But in the spiritual lust, there is no selfish desire. There is only desire to please the Supreme Lord. So therefore, when people, they hear about Krishna's dealing with the gopis and their embracing and dancing. So they have some difficulty. How can this be love? How can this be free from lust? So actually we have to understand, as a conditioned soul, it is our tendency to interpret things according to our experience. In our experience, any conjugal affair such as dancing and embracing, they are the manifestations of the lust. And therefore, when we hear these types of pastimes being performed by Krishna and the gopis, there is a tendency that we misinterpret these pastimes also, and we see these pastimes in the context of mundane lust. But a pure devotee who has genuine realizations, he sees these pastimes as completely pure, free from any desire for sense gratification. So as Bhagavad Gita also describes, that spiritual world is a reflection of this material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. Urdhvamulam adashakam ashwatham prahuravyam. Whatever is highest in the spiritual world is the lowest in the material world. So in the spiritual world, this loving affair between the Krishna and the gopis, they are highest. That too in the parakiya bhav. But when it is translated in the material world, it is the lowest. For a man to have an extramarital affair, it is the lowest. But we have to understand, in the spiritual world, that is the highest, because in that there is no desire for personal sense gratification. Pragad premere swabhava achar nija dukha vigna adi nokare vichar. So Mahadevendra Puri, he underwent a lot of trouble to go from Vrindavan to Remuna and to Puri to get this Chandan. He could have delegated that service to any of his disciples, but he himself went. That is the symptom of selfless love. So apparently it may seem that these Brajvasis, they were selfish. All the gopis, they would dress very luxuriantly, beautifully. They would make so many of the decorations on their face. Why they are doing so much? They are so much self-conscious. But actually, we should understand why the gopis, they were dressing themselves properly, because they wanted to give pleasure to Krishna. But when Krishna plays flute, they didn't think of about their dress. The Bhagavatam describes, when Krishna, he would play flute, the gopis, they would just leave everything and go to meet Krishna. One gopi, she was putting kajal in her eyes, and she had put in one eye, other was remaining. As soon as she heard, she left and ran to meet Krishna. Somebody was taking care of the family. She left everything and went to meet Krishna. Somebody was just wearing her garments. Out of in haste, she wore upper garment on the lower part, lower on the upper part. They were so obsessed with the thoughts of pleasing Krishna that they are not caring for their personal sense gratification. Can any person of this world do this? Can any woman or any man, however he may love his beloved or her beloved, can he reach up to this ecstasy that he gives up everything? If the beloved calls, you can come, you should come now. Nobody will just leave everything and go to meet. They will say, okay, no problem. I'm coming. I'll come. You just wait. The gopis, they never ever complained, अरे क्या कृष्ण आप रात को ही क्यों बंसी बजाते हो, दिन भर नहीं बजा सकते थे. So that's how they were completely surrendered to Krishna. They were ready to dance according to the will of Krishna. That is called pure devotion. To be surrendered, to be malleable to the will of Krishna is the symptom of pure devotional service. And this was shown by the gopis. So therefore, this spiritual lust is never selfish. It is complete selflessness. And therefore, Rupa Goswami, when he gives this word kama for this spiritual lust, he is doing it for a reason. Because he wants to tell that the highest emotion in this world is lust. So how can we understand the love gopis had for Krishna? Just to, when we compare that with the highest emotion of this world, that is the attraction between man and women. That's why he's comparing this lust of gopis with the lust of man and women in this world. So that is how we have to understand. This is figurative. He's just trying to give some resemblance so that we can have some understanding what was the love gopis had for Krishna, because we had no other reference point. Our reference point is very, very shallow. Therefore, all the acharyas, they are very, very expert in presenting things according to time, place, and circumstance. They know that all the people of the world, highest emotion in their mind is sex life. So whatever they give, whatever they want to tell, they tell it in relation to this. When they want to tell how we should be attached to Krishna, just like a man is attached to women. Satamayam sar bhritam nisargo yadartavani shruti chet samapi pratikshanam na vyavadaccha tasyat striya vitanam iva sadhu varta. Bhagavatam describes Satam, the devotees of the Lord, they are seekers of essence. Yadarthavani shruti chet samapi, with their body, mind, word, with all their wealth, with their consciousness, they are always absorbed in thinking about and hearing the pastimes of the Lord. They never become satiated. Just like Striya Vitanam Iva Sadhu Varta, people who are absorbed in the topics of women, they are never satiated. So therefore, the acharyas, when they give such understanding so that a conditioned soul he can relate to. So that is how all the acharyas, they give this example of spiritual lust of gopis. Gopyaha kamat. That kam is not the kama of this world which we have experience of, but to just give some understanding of what may be that kam, the example of relationship between a man and women of this world is described. And then to substantiate it, Rupa Goswami gives the evidence for the purity of the spiritual lust. And Rupa Goswami says that the evidence is, when the Uddhava, who was a pure devotee of the Lord, when he went to Vrindavan with the message, and he saw that the gopis, who were so very exalted devotees, when Uddhava went to Vrindavan, he came with the message of, this Gyan Marg. He wanted to tell the gopis, you meditate on Krishna, then you'll be united with Krishna. You think about the qualities and the pastimes of Krishna. In that way, you will be relieved of the distress which is arising because of the separation. So he had all these thoughts in his mind. When he came to Vrindavan, he saw that one gopi is already doing meditation. So he became intrigued. I came to tell them to do meditation, and here this gopi is already doing meditation. So he went and asked this gopi, what are you meditating on? So this gopi, she said, I am meditating to actually take Krishna out of my mind. Whole day I am just thinking of Krishna. I am not able to do anything. So therefore I am meditating so that I can take Krishna out of my mind, and I can do something of this world. So that was the position of gopis. In this world, out of sight is out of mind. But when the love is very, very intense, out of sight increases the desire, increases the thoughts of the person. And that's what was happening with the gopis and all the Brajavasis. Therefore, Uddhava says, Asamahocharanare nujushamahamsyam Vrindavane kimapi gulmalataushadhina Yodusthyajam swajanamarya patham chahitva Bhejur mukunda padavim shrutimirgyameva. So he says, Asamaho, oh my lord, I want the dust of the lotus feet of these gopis. But if I'll ask them, they would be very, very embarrassed. I don't want to embarrass them. So what is the solution? I want to become a gulmulata, I want to become a creeper in Vrindavan, so that when the Brajvasis and the gopis, they would travel, they would walk, they would step on me, and I would get dust off the feet of the gopis. These gopis, they have given up everything, dustyaja, things which are very very difficult to give up: their family, their relations, their children. Patisutanvayat, bhratrabandhavat, ativilangyate, tyachyuta gata. Pati, suta, bhratra, bandhav, everything gopis gave up. So therefore, Uddhava is is telling that telling by his example, he's certifying that yes, gopis love is not lust, it is pure. And then Prabhupada gives the additional example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the greatest of all sannyasis. He was completely absorbed in hearing the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis. He was thinking about Krishna with the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis. He was hearing Jayadev Goswami's this Geet Govind and Chandidasa's composition. So if such a pure sannyasi like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was very very strict in his dealings, he would not even allow any women to come near him, how can he think of any material things of this world? And if he is meditating on the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis, that shows that these pastimes were not material pastimes, they were spiritual pastimes. And then in the end of this chapter, Rupa Goswami gives another type of calm, that transcendental calm which is mixed with mundane calm. This is the mixture of both transcendental also and mundane also. And Rupa Goswami gives the example of Kubja. Kubja was a hunchbacked woman. When Krishna went to Mathura, he met this lady. She was carrying chandana to be applied to Kamsa. When she saw the beauty of Krishna, she became completely attracted and enamored and captivated by the beauty of Krishna. And Krishna said, "Oh my dear lady, if you give this chandan to us, you'll be supremely benefited." And this Kubja, she did not even think twice. She personally decorated the whole body of Krishna with chandan. And out and reciprocation, Krishna, he stepped. She was not a beautiful lady, and she had a hunchback. So Krishna put his toe on the toe of this lady, and he put her index finger under the chin of this lady, and he gave little jerk. And because of the touch and the jerk of Krishna, she became very very beautiful lady. And as she became beautiful, she started showing the symptoms of conjugal love. So Acharya says that love was not pure transcendental love, because she was having still lusty desires, mundane lusty desires, although she had little attraction for Krishna also. So therefore, that is transcendental calm mixed with the mundane calm. And then in the 16th chapter, Rupa Goswami describes the further stages of this Raga Nuga Bhakti. Now from here, Rupa Goswami actually starts the description of Raga Nuga Bhakti. What is Raga Nuga Bhakti? So in the 15th chapter, there are two types of Ragatmika Bhakti which were described: Kama Rupa and Sambandha Rupa. So in this chapter, corresponding to these two types of Ragatmika Bhakti, there are two types of Raganuga Bhakti. The devotees who are trying to follow in the footsteps of the gopis of Vrindavan, they are called Kama, they are doing Kamanuga Sadhana Bhakti. And those people, those devotees who are trying to follow in the footsteps of Sambandhatmika devotees, Sambandha Rupa devotees, they are practicing Sambandhanuga Bhakti. So therefore, Ragatmika Bhakti means perfection of spontaneous devotion, and Ragatnuga Bhakti means practice of spontaneous devotion. So all these are very very high topics, so just we should know what is the theory. So we'll take just 2 minutes and then we'll stop. So this Srila Prabhupada says that there is no need of discussing more about ragatmika devotees of the Lord. So there he says spontaneous love of Krishna as exhibited by Vrishnis and the denizens of Krishna is denizens of Vrindavan is eternally existing in them. In the stage of devotional service, where regulative principles are allowed, there is no necessity of discussing this love, for it must develop of itself at a more advanced stage. So therefore, Kamarupa and Sambandharupa Bhakti, they are found in the eternal residents of Vrindavan, and therefore they will not be discussed in this section. And then Rupa Goswami describes that there are two types of Raganuga Bhakti. There is Kam Anuga and there is Sambandha Anuga. So in the waves of devotion, Dhanudhar Maharaj writes, Raganuga Bhakti is the practice of advanced devotees, which is intended to cultivate the sentiments of a particular eternal devotee. So that is the Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, particular emotions which are particular sentiments of a pure devotee in Vrindavan. But before explaining that, Srila Rupa Goswami gives the prerequisites. What are the qualifications of a practitioner to practice Raganuga Bhakti? Who can practice Raganuga Bhakti? At what level? Because after hearing, somebody may think, I'll also practice Raganuga Bhakti. So therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami clarifies. So we'll discuss tomorrow. So this is the overview of this chapter. First, the definition of Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti is given, and then prerequisite is given, and then the two types of Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti will be described. So we'll stop here and we'll continue tomorrow. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki jai. If anybody has any questions, they can ask. It is mentioned that we should not commit any offense against devotees. Then how to deal with the family members with our bad gunas if all of them are Krishna conscious and if I stay in a joint family? So okay, I think it is related to the earlier chapters. So actually, when we are staying with devotees who are all with family members who are also devotees, so we have to be extremely careful, because Rupa Goswami and all our acharyas, they have very clearly said that two things we have to do: attentive chanting and attentive dealings with the devotees. So dealings with the holy name and dealings with the devotees. So therefore we have to always remind ourselves that when we stay with the devotees, by naturally we'll be seeing the faults of everyone. The more we stay close to somebody, we will be naturally seeing all their faults. So therefore we have to understand that in this world everybody has faults. Kaler dosh nidhi rajan asti hi eko mahan guna. But there is one advantage in this Kali Yuga, that we can perfect our life by chanting holy names of the Lord. So therefore, if we see some apparent faults in the devotees, we have to always remind ourselves that he is also practicing devotional service, and because he is in a conditioned state like me, he is also committing some offenses, some faults. Yes, some faults, some mistakes he is doing. So therefore we don't have to deal with them in a harsh way. Try to maintain a distance if we cannot avoid committing mistakes, committing offenses. If we know that, okay, if I see this person now, by default I'll make some offense, so if that is the case, best is to stay a little away, don't deal with them closely. And if you have to deal with them, then we have to actually pray to the Lord and pray to the Vaishnava community, and that please give me intelligence so that I may not offend these Vaishnavas. And for any further practical solutions, we can approach some senior devotees and you can explain your actual situation who is that devotee who is a family member and you are not able to deal with him properly. So then anyways we can approach some of our seniors and get a solution from them about our practical questions, practical problems of life. Okay, we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.